Last call for Burnham Express. Will you get on the train? It's time for a new era in our politics. Keir Starmer is finally gone, leaving behind a legacy of hatred, division, and fear. We do not know where our country will go next, and we are seeing that despite the progress that has been made, there is still so much to do to change our country. The promise of change has still not yet been delivered, and now it falls to the successor to lead the charge for a new era and a brighter future. Will that person be Andy Burnham, or will it be someone else? Now it has become increasingly clear that the manoeuvres are starting to become ever more pronounced within the Labour Party. We saw yesterday Andy Burnham taking a jubilant and triumphant selfie with the Parliamentary Labour Party, 200 MPs standing behind him, almost as if to say that he is the Messiah and he is their leader. This is merely hours after the resignation of Mr. Starmer, and this suggests something which is truly fearful for our future. It suggests that Andy Burnham is more comfortable in Westminster than any of us would have imagined. He is walking through the corridors of power as if he owns them, and he is their lord. The King of the North has now become the King of Power, ready to exert dominance over the political landscape. But now we see that maybe the movement for justice that he promised, the movement for hope that he outlined, that is coming under threat. And we have to make sure that the future that Andy Burnham's government creates is one which signals hope and renewal for our beleaguered nation, for our broken communities, and that can only happen through a radical program of change, not more incremental improvements. And we see now the speculation beginning to rise about how the Andy Burnham government will conduct itself. There have been 3 candidates floated for who will become Mr. Burnham's Chancellor. One is Shabana Mahmood, the effective organizer of the immigration reforms of this Labour government, which has yielded much success. But what we do not need right now is more instability in government departments, more ministerial churn. It would be wise for Mr. Burnham to maintain Mahmood on her original position at the Home Office so that we have that stability. A former cabinet secretary recently outlined to The Guardian that the number one thing that is needed for effective governance and effective delivery is stability in cabinet ministers and stability in junior ministers, stable government. We need stable government. We don't need more turmoil and change, but where there is change necessary, it must be completed, both for political authority and for a renewal of our political fortunes as a Labour Party and as our country to stop the rising tide of the turquoise force that is engulfing our political landscape. Reform UK. The second candidate for Chancellor is Wes Streeting, who cynically abandoned his leadership bid yesterday following the election of Andy Burnham to the constituency of Makerfield and to the Houses of Parliament. This shows that he is a very slimy operator, and he does not care for the country nor for his party, only for his personal interests. He is angling for a cabinet position and abandoning his so-called morality, which he professed merely last week, about wanting to deliver his own vision and his own values, which he has so easily abandoned just because of his own political ambitions. He is clearly not a morally fit candidate, nor a competent candidate for the job of Chancellor, for he would only exacerbate and perpetuate the neoliberal orthodoxy, the neoliberal decline that we have seen for generations. And the final candidate that has been floated to the media is Ed Miliband. This is a somewhat reasonable option. He has done very well in the Department for Energy and Net Zero, and he has repeatedly outlined radical proposals for changing the nation, but he is also neoliberal to his core. He doesn't want radical change. He only wants tweaking around the edges. I think the Chancellor should be Miata van Bulleh, long-time ally of Mr. Burnham. She is a truly radical economic thinker, and she can truly bring change to our politics and to our economics and to our system. She is the only one of the candidates that have been floated who rejects the straitjacket of the fiscal rules, who rejects the arbitrary constraints that are being imposed upon our nation. It is vital that we heed the call for change and bring about a radical process through a radical candidate for Chancellor. And that means having someone like Miata Fanbuleh rather than someone like Wes Streeting, who would continue the orthodoxy that has destroyed our country for generations. But what lies next for our country? What lies next for the Labour Party? The leadership election is imminent, and we will likely see a new Prime Minister before summer recess in July. And that means that the new Prime Minister will have the summer to prepare for government, and he will have the conference in Liverpool at the end of September to outline their vision to the country and outline a program of change. And I hope that I'll be attending that conference. But I really do think that only Andy Burnham can bring that change. I don't think there could be another candidate that would have the same broad appeal and the same radical ideas that he has. In his campaign rally after winning the Makerfield by-election, he said some very, very promising things, including his ambition to reindustrialize the North, reindustrialize our beleaguered heartlands with a new program of investment. That means social housing. That means giving government the power to improve people's lives through a productive state. That is the essence of Manchesterism. And that is exactly what our country needs. That is exactly what our country so desperately needs. And that is exactly what Andy Burnham is trying to deliver, a productive state that intervenes to support our people. At the same time, he's also being very reasonable about other proposals that are controversial within the political landscape, and especially on the left, such as immigration, recognizing the need for constraints on immigration, recognizing the need to heed people's concerns, but also recognizing that some of the measures taken by Mrs. Mahmood were too harsh, and that we do need to look at these measures again to make sure that they strike the best balance. Evidence-based policymaking is exactly what we need. He has also outlined support for cutting welfare and increasing defense. I do not think that such a binary approach, such a limited approach would be wise. It would be more appropriate to consider things in a more holistic manner by, for example, looking at the way that welfare payments are distributed and what are they aiming to achieve. As the Milburn Review outlined, a lot of the welfare system is not providing employment support to people, is making them dependent and creating a dependency culture where people are trapped in poverty. It is perpetuating the cycle of poverty rather than breaking people out of it. What we really need is radical reforms to our welfare system, and that means providing real value to people to actually support them in their livelihoods, especially disabled people who have so many extra costs yet are not supported adequately by the welfare system. And it also means not just directing people to financial support when they're experiencing difficulty, but giving them real help to turn their lives around, especially for lower level mental health conditions. That is exactly what we need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to improve their lives rather than being trapped into a system designed to penalize them at every turn. We have a system that is predicated upon distrust rather than trust, and that is creating poor outcomes. That is why we need to change the system now. And Andy Burnham has provided a platform of hope that we can deliver some change in our society, and that includes action on inequality, which is really necessary for improving the state of our nation, making sure that we live in a meritocracy rather than an inheritocracy. And that means a wealth tax on the richest 1%. It means increases to capital gains tax, as Wes Streeting has previously outlined. It means cutting taxes for ordinary working people to make sure that they can survive. It means ending the high marginal rates of tax and the personal allowance withdrawal penalty that penalizes the middle classes. It means taxing assets, taxing wealth, not work, to make sure that people have power, economic power, social power, through ownership, because ownership is power, and we need to make sure that workers have power in our society. And the only way to do that is by rebalancing ownership, by rebalancing our economic system to favor the many, not the few. And Andy Burnham can achieve that. But I really, really do fear that he is not being radical enough, that he is leaving our country by the wayside and catering to his own personal ambitions, the way that he strode through Parliament like a king. He is already so confident in the way that he approaches politics, and maybe that's a good thing after the meek decision making and the meek authority of the previous Prime Minister. But it really makes me feel uneasy that the future Prime Minister is striding through the corridors of power so confidently and acting as if he has already got a grip upon power, that he can do whatever he likes. While his values are quite fixed, he is prone to changing his policies and beliefs. And maybe that's also a good thing, I don't know. But the point is, can we really trust Andy Burnham? It's a moment of hope. It's a moment of potential and possibility to change our country, to bring a new future, to build a new politics. But the action that is being outlined is not radical enough. But there's also a risk that the Labour Party and Mr. Burnham could fall into the same trap of all previous progressive governments, being captured by the corporate lobby, being captured by elite interests. And if that happens, then the Labour Party will be irredeemable. It will be beyond recovery. As Mr. Burnham himself has said, this is Labour's last chance. And if Labour collapse from here, if Mr. Burnham does not rise to the challenge, we will see the inevitable rise of the reform government that we have all been fearing, some have been hoping for and anticipating with glee. But we know what the outcome will be if such a situation arises. Destruction of the lives of ordinary people, more poverty, more inequality, more despair for our people and for our communities. We need more power for the North. We need more power for people's communities. We do not need to concentrate power in the hands of a few, nor wealth, nor opportunity. And if Farage gets in, we all know what will happen. So it is clear where we have to go from here. We need a radical program of renewal. We need to support Andy Burnham as he attempts to bring that change. But if he strays from the path of renewal, we have to hold him to account. We have to make sure that the reality of the situation that our country faces and the reality of the solutions that we need is not concealed, but is out in the open. We need to build a new narrative through a new media, to build a new politics. And that is the mission that I will always fight for. The mission and goal and vision of justice. And Andy Burnham claims to have the same mission. It remains to be seen whether he is on our side.